Girl here with my 2 cents on the government shutdown. But before I say anything else, and y'all try to come for my check, I'm gonna say full disclosure. I am a government employee, a federal government employee. Um, that does not mean that any of these views represent my employer or the federal government. So let me make this very clear. These views that are expressed in this video are my views and my views alone. That does not represent my employer, nor does it represent the federal government. So, so with that being said, let's go ahead and continue with this video. What I will be talking about in this video is number one, what is a government shutdown? Why did we shut down? What happens now? And then last but not least, my 2 cents on everything. So let's go ahead and start off with what is a government shutdown? A government shutdown basically means that the money that was given to each of these government agencies within its control have now reached its expiration date on the funding that it was allotted. Typically, what happens is that Congress, which consists of both the House of Representatives and the Senate, come together and they approve bills of appropriations that allocate specific amounts of funding for government agencies within its jurisdiction. Not all government agencies are within its jurisdiction, and I will talk about that in a moment. But the big picture is that we get money, we have a certain date that money is available to us. Once that date approaches, Congress has to come back and agree on more money that they will give to us. However, what typically happens is that they reach the expiration date, they come together, they can't really reach an agreement, and they do what they call a continuing resolution, which is basically an extension that gives temporary funding to each of the government agencies within its jurisdiction up until a certain date, and then they have to reconvene to actually iron out some real money that's for long-term spending. What I've seen over the past year and a half, 2 years is that we just have continuing resolutions the whole time. So it's never like we never really have a position of security in how much money that we have and how long will the government stay open. But this time we didn't do a continuing resolution, which was really weird. So let me explain to you why we didn't have a continuing resolution this time. Trump said that he wanted this border wall between the U.S. and Mexico. And he said, with all the boldness that he could muster up, that Mexico was going to pay for the wall. Well, Mexico told them where to shove that wall. And instead of Trump just saying, you know what, that wasn't a good idea, we're going to have to go back to the drawing board, he was like, nah, y'all going to have to pay for it now. So basically, he's making the American people pay for the wall. I've seen some GoFundMe's and stuff like that talking about funding for the wall, and it's built up a couple $1,000,000 and everything. Y'all go ahead and take that money and build that damn wall or fence or whatever you want to do. But it should not have to come out of the federal spending. I'm getting into my 2 cents. Let me back up. So Mexico said no. He said, okay, then the government gonna have to pay for it. And if you don't pay for it, I'm gonna shut this whole operation down. And that's exactly what basically happened. The House of Representatives actually approved a bill that included the $5.7 billion that Trump actually wanted for the wall. However, now it has to go to Senate for the Senate to approve. The Senate said no. Okay, they actually approved a similar appropriations package, but it did not include the wall funding. The problem is that because they couldn't reach some kind of resolution within a reasonable amount of time, they ended up shutting down the government because it's an all or nothing deal. Either you agree on the entire budget or you just don't have an agreement at all. So basically what that leaves is people like me out of work for a little while and possibly not receiving a paycheck. So let's talk about what happens now. There's over 380,000 federal employees who are furloughed. Furloughed means I could not even work for free if I wanted to. I am not to report to work. there's 420,000 federal employees who have to work without getting a paycheck at all. Let that sink in for you, okay? They are closing down national parks, monuments, and museums, but more importantly, not that those are not important, but there are also other government services that are actually just shut down completely. A lot of civil rights oriented organizations and agencies are not running because of the fact that we don't have any money to run it off of, and they will not allow us to work. So we basically sit at home and wait until something gets approved. In the meantime, in between time, there are some government services and monies and benefits that are being allocated. For example, Social Security, Medicare, and food stamps. Those things are still being allocated. However, there will be significant delays in things like VA benefits, which are benefits for our veterans that fought for our liberties and independence as a country. Also, unemployment benefits, farm subsidies, and tax returns. All of those things are being held or withheld until further notice, and that further notice has not been determined. Now, we probably will receive back pay as far as the federal employees are concerned. However, that does not mean that it still will be without consequence. So let me go ahead and get into my 2 cents. Okay. First of all, morale for me is shot. You had one job before Christmas, and that was to agree on some money. Now, I really can't fault Congress for not being able to pass a budget because they pretty much said, okay, here's what we got here, but we're not going to fund this racist ass wall. It's wasteful. It does not send the right message, and there are other ways that we can go about this in a more effective and efficient manner. But because Trump is so hell-bent on this wall that he promised another country would pay for, he is willing to shut down the entire government and then blame it on the Democrats, okay? So the problem as far as morale for me is that Congress is still getting paid. So whether they are able to reach an agreement or not, they're still getting paid. But federal employees who actually keep the government going are not getting paid. Now, this is not just some fluke that created this little loophole for them to get paid. The truth of the matter is that Congress is paid through the Department of Treasury, which is not within the appropriations that the shutdown is regarding. Government appropriations are for other things, but the Department of Treasury has its own bucket of money that stays constant, and that is what Congress gets their pay from. The 27th Amendment actually bars Congress from saying, you know what, if we're shut down and federal employees are not getting paid, we're not going to get paid either. Even if they wanted to, the 27th Amendment bars them from changing Congress's pay within their own term. So they can't just sit down and say, well, I'm just going to say I'm not going to take any money. None of us are taking any money. They can't actually change their pay within their own term. And that actually is to our benefit when they want raises and they want to give themselves their own raises. Because, of course, that would be abuse of power and discretion. But however, in this instance, because there's a shutdown and we're saying, well, we're not getting paid, you shouldn't get paid either, the 27th Amendment actually hurts us at the same time. Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution also bars Congress from changing the president's pay within his term of service. So they're not able to actually cut his pay either. So there's really not much that we can do about it, but it still kind of hurts that you can not do your job, not reach an agreement. The president, Congress, whoever, you guys can just fail to do your job, be stubborn as heck, and have us without money, but you can still get paid. It does not mean that does not hurt. You know what I'm saying? Furthermore, I think that this is just wasteful. It's wasteful to shut down the government, President Trump. It's wasteful because the furloughed employees make up, at least in this period of time, which is about 9 days now, that is about $2 billion of money that could be poured into American households, which could then spill over into the economy. And during a time where stores need to stay afloat, places like Amazon and eBay and Etsy and all of these online stores are thriving, but the brick and mortars are not. They need people to come into their stores and to shop with their good Christmas money. But instead, they're not able to do that because they're not sure if they're going to be able to make rent on the first of the month or even the next month, depending on how long this shutdown is going to last. So it's wasteful in that sense that you're trying to make a point, but you're making the economy suffer at the same time. Just imagine how many layoffs and pay cuts and things like that may result as a product of this shutdown. Furthermore, um, it the the wall is wasteful because it's not effective. I don't think that it's really going to help with illegal immigration. If they're willing to try hard enough to walk across the border, which I'm sure is no easy feat, trust me when I say that, they're going to make other avenues available to them to circumvent the wall. I know that I've done immigration law before Trump and after Trump, okay, as a side thing, because I am a licensed attorney and I did immigration law before Trump and after Trump. And let me tell you something, to come over to the US legally is already hard enough as it is. So I'm sure they can get much more creative with how they regulate legal immigration to make sure that illegal immigration is being reduced significantly. So the fact that we have to jump through so many hurdles now as attorneys trying to represent immigrants who want to come into the country legally, I'm sure that there are other ways that they could do that. Other things that they could do is increase staff on the border, increase technology like drones and other detections and things like that. Some effective air and ground security would be great. I'm not against border security because there are things that could be prevented through those efforts, but you have to make sure that it's effective and that it also does not send the wrong message, because Trump has said things like, why would we want people from shithole countries? And the next thing I know, you want to build a wall between the U.S. and Mexico. So who's the shithole country that you're referring to? Probably Mexico and other countries of color. These people are seeking asylum sometimes. They don't have the means nor the time to take the legal avenues, and it seems like now he's trying to circumvent that and make sure that people can't get over here no matter what the circumstances are. The last thing that I will say is that we have to stop sensationalizing this as a extraordinary phenomenon that's going on. This is the 21st shutdown in American history. So this is not something new. Clinton had a shutdown for 21 days. Then it was Carter who had a shutdown for 18 days. Obama had one for 16 days, and then Jimmy Carter had one for 12 days. So there have been shutdowns for a long time, and this is nothing spectacular. I think what's spectacular about it is that it's over a very racist policy that could greatly compromise our international relations as well as the credibility that we hold worldwide. So you all let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, love and blessings.